Hello, good morning, and welcome to Somm-Things. Super special treat, a field trip today out exploring Denver. So we are down at Attimo Wines down in Larimer and Park, and then joined by Scott Thomas today. A friend goes back a few years in the wine industry here in Denver. We've been away different places. You've been to Italy, lived there for a couple of years. I was in San Francisco and Chicago, and now reunited. A really fun project that I was thrilled to come back and learn about. It's really exciting. So Italian wines, Italian grapes, but finished or bottled here in Denver. So kind of a new concept that's taken the urban winery philosophy into something brand new, a little bit more modern, satisfying lots of curiosities, like traditional winemaking in Italy, lots of patriarchal things going on there, history, rules, legislation, stereotypes that are all kind of being rocked on their world as the world evolves and changes. So we're going to focus on a couple of the wines that they produce, some of the ones that we carry at Argonaut, right back here, and then also a few other ones that selfishly I want to taste. And you're kind enough to let me do that.
We're here. Let's do this.
So Piedmont, northwestern Italy, famous very much for Barolo and Barbaresco.
Correct.
I spoke to an Italian winemaker that I have a girl crush on who says Barolo, Barbaresco, Barbera. It's a really fun grapes to say, and the way to speak Italian I've been taught over the years is roll your R's and wave your hands around.
Esatto, sì. Or you do something like this.
Yeah. And that's what you were saying, like your name in Italian, you'd be Scott.
Tommaso.
Tommaso.
Sì.
I love it.
Sì.
Perfect.
Facile.
Facile. We're learning so much. So Piedmont, the region, Nebbiolo is king. Nebbiolo is a king grape. And if you see Barolo or Barbaresco on there, it has to be 100% Nebbiolo. And Nebbiolo is the sommelier's dream of a grape. It's pretty thick, thin-skinned. It has a lot of tannin and a lot of acidity to it. So it literally makes your mouth water and dries your mouth out at the same time while stimulating your appetite and making you hungry. And it's fantastic. It's a really great food pairing wine.
Absolutely.
We'll let you tell us more about it. You're the expert here, so I'm the novice.
I'll give you just a quick overview of Attimo. So Attimo is the Italian word for moment. And this project stemmed from our owner, founder, visionary. His name is John Schlegel. And John founded Snooze, AM Eatery, back in 2003 with his brother. And quickly grew, and that was his first dream. And then by age 40, he wanted to conquer his second dream, which was living abroad. So he did that. He stepped away in 2013 from Snooze and moved his family to Monforte d'Alba. And Monforte is a small commune of Barolo. And there they lived for 3 years, so three harvests, and John wanted to learn wine from soil all the way to bottle. And he did that, and he was staging with some of the greatest producers there. And during his time, he started making connections with producers and sharing his idea that he wanted to have his own winery at some point in time. But it's difficult to be an outsider in Italy and buy in and have a piece of land and a winery, etc. So this idea came about of producing wines in conjunction with 6 families there, and they're producing the wines for us, let's say, and then transported here where we bottle them in our facility in Denver. And it wouldn't be possible without John's time there, obviously. Yeah. And we're making very traditional wines, as you said, but in a very modern approach. But the wines, if you blind tasted them, they're very classic in their forms.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So we will do some of the classic ones, but we're going to start first with Faborita. Faborita has been one of my favorite wines to explore from Piedmont. Kind of because of the name, but also I like the fact that historically it's Vermentino.
Correct. From
the Italian coast around Puglia. No,
Sardinia.
Sardinia. And then over the years, I always used to describe that Vermentino, the grape, is the one that is all about suntan lotion, hanging out by the sea, Absolutely. Picking up that salty air, slapping on suntan lotion, sun-loving. But then like a lot of grapes, if you don't watch them or monitor them, they tend to evolve and run away like Sangiovese does it. But this one kind of crept its way, it's a vine, it's a creeper, crept its way into different regions. And up here in Piedmont, it's been kind of renamed Favorita because it's everybody's favorite grape to drink.
Exactly.
And you can't drink $150 Barolo and Barbaresco every day.
True.
In July when it's 100 degrees.
True.
So also in Denver in like 70, 80, 90 degree days, you need something else to drink in the afternoon. And I love it for that. So
I agree. And it goes back to how Italy is so endearing in the fact that it's so regional. and it's only been an incorporated country since 1860. So before that, these were autonomous states, let's say, or regions. And as you said, Vermentino in Sardinia and in Tuscany, and it's called Pigatto in Liguria, and it's called Roll in the south of France, and in Piedmont it's called Favorita, because it is everyone's Favorita. But always this classic characteristic of kind of a saline note, salty, stone fruits and orchard fruit kind of combined, a medium plus acidity. It was just, piaciuto. I think it's pleasurable, it's easy to drink, and it's quite lovely. It's quaffable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this is what I was drinking most when I was there, honestly.
That's my go-to. I remember being in Italy on my first trip with the team from Barolo Grill, and like I say, it was hot. We all had our sundresses on, and I just remember feeling like a movie star, standing out in my sundress and drinking my Favorita in the afternoon. Yes. So a moment I want to recreate over and over again. Yes.
And honestly, there's not much exported from the region. It's mostly consumed within the region of Lower Piedmont. And we're trying to champion this grape here because it is so unique, it's so different. And the fact that we can do it and keep it economical, I think is a really great coup for us and the consumers that are here. So come by and taste it. I mean, it's very interesting. I love this grape variety. And
How would you compare this to Pinot Grigio? So if you've got a Pinot Grigio fan, how do we get them to get excited about tasting these?
Pinot Grigio can be many different things depending on where it's from. I think Pinot Grigio in general is a little bit flatter, you could say, maybe a little bit more yeasty, kind of lees notes, cheese, that type of aspect to it. And that's due to because of the winemaking, and maybe the skin itself is a little bit thicker. This is a really light skinned grape. It is always high in acidity, always higher acidity than Pinot Grigio. So a little bit brighter, a little bit fresh, but if you do love Pinot Grigio, I think this is a great transition, and maybe a little bit, more linear, I guess I would describe it.
Excellent. I love it. It's really clean and refreshing, and I'm actually going to save a little bit for after all of this. It'll be a nice little palate cleansing after these drier wines. So then moving into the Barbera. So Barbera being a grape that the Nebbiolo grape kind of commands the best spots in the vineyards, a little bit more difficult to make, and then Nebbia meaning fog, and then Piedmont, food of the mountains. There's this fog line that kind of sits through the region, and Nebbiolo needs to be above it. Nebbiolo does not care to spend any time in the fog, but Barbera and Dolcetto to an extent do okay and actually produce some really nice wines there.
Correct. Yeah, so Barbera and Dolcetto, the red grapes that are in the least favorable sites, let's say north-facing slopes or slopes that don't get enough heat to ripen Nebbiolo, because Nebbiolo is the earliest to flower and it's the last to harvest in October. So it needs a lot of sunshine, needs steep slopes, whereas Barbera and Dolcetto don't necessarily. So they can be down in the valleys. That's where all the cold air sits. And in the Langhe Hills, Roero Hills, I mean, there is a lot of fog and there is a lot of cold air in the morning. So despite that, Barbera is very easy to cultivate. It ripens almost every single year. And this particular site, we have a single vineyard. It's called Madonna de Cuomo, and it's basically 10 minutes south by drive from Alba. And the soil structure is almost the same as Serralunga d'Alba, so it's on that same eastern strata, if you will. So it's mostly clay and limestone, etc. And the difference between Barbera d'Alba, Barbera d'Asti, Alba has a little bit broader shoulders, I'd say, a little bit darker fruit, blue fruit, kind of blueberry and brambly, where Asti is more like straight cranberry, pomegranate, more tart.
Nice.
So this is made a very traditional manner, and Botti, and a Botti in this region is a huge barrel, like 2,500 liters or more. And that's what this is aged in for 8 months before it's exported to us.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think something definitely to note, I always find when you're looking at the stores and the shelves in the store, and you're looking at, there's a Barbera that's $17 and there's a Barbera that's $11 or $12. The big difference there is the oak treatment. And there's nothing wrong with either style versus the other. This one is definitely an oak-aged Barbera. It's a little bit more serious, has more structure to it.
Very much so.
Higher price point. And then the other ones, the Barberas that are not seen oak, they're just kept in stainless steel. They're maintaining that bright, youthful, fruity expression. Both are great, but I'm always super excited by a single vineyard, oak-aged Barbera. For me, it's dramatically different and so much more interesting.
I agree. I agree. And this pairs so well because the true identity of Barbera is the acidity. It's always high and it makes you salivate. Mm-hmm. And one of the best food pairing components is acidity to have. But let's say you're taking a tomato, a pasta sauce, a red sauce, or pizza, etc. That's generally very difficult to pair with because tomato is very acidic. So with two acidities together, let's say Barbera and a red sauce, that goes absolutely perfect together. Burgers as well, barbecue, things like that. So it's consumable with everyday foods really that we have here.
Anything like your standard cheese and meat plate, your charcuterie,
Absolutely.
some of that high-fat meat sausages, I think it'd be fantastic with
Totally.
this too. Sweet.
I'm a fan.
All right. Well, moving on to the king grape. So Nebbiolo, kind of hitting that already. Nebbiolo taking its name from nebbia, the fog. We talked about some of the characteristics of the grape already. We're going to do the Barolo, so the Barbaresco and the Barolo. Different aging requirements, slightly different generalizations that we can maybe make about the two.
Yes.
Will you tell me how?
So in general, Barbaresco, and Barolo are both named after the townships, so very small hilltop towns within a zone, and then the appellation took its name from it, and same with Barolo. And the generalization would be that Barbaresco, is always a little bit more elegant, and Barolo a little bit more serious, a little bit more structured, and a little more full-bodied. So oftentimes in the past they were referred to as the king and queen of wine, Barbaresco being the queen, Barolo being the king. I don't think that's always the case anymore. There are some very structured Barbaresco, but they are made from 100% Nebbiolo always. The aging requirements for Barbaresco, the disciplinaria, the rules the government puts forth, are 26 months for Barbaresco, and at least 9 of those in wood, and 38 months for Barolo, and at least 24 months in wood. Ours spend both that maximum amount of time in wood because the way that we get issued our fascetti, the DOCG bands here, that they have to spend that amount of time in the zone. So both single vineyard sites as well, which is a fairly new and modern concept. And classically, Nebbiolo was blended from multiple sites so that they can producers can guarantee a wine every single year because hail is like the biggest detriment climatically that comes through and just devastate one vineyard in like 30 seconds. Right. So this is a unique, approach and made very, very classically. Again, both aged in Bozzi in very large barrel, so they're super elegant. It's kind of elegance wrapped in power, or vice versa, power wrapped in elegance, and that's what Nebbiolo is. Like Nebbiolo is one of the most complex wines in the world, and certainly some of the most sought after as well.
Nice.
So 2016 on the Barbaresco, one of the best vintages of all time from this region. They will last forever. And going back to those grape varieties, Barbera, Dolcetto, these are the grapes that producers drank while their Barolo and Barbaresco were aging, because generally, back in the day, a producer would say a Barolo, like, don't drink it for 10 years, at least. 15, then 20, even better. But now with modern winemaking techniques and a little bit more vineyard pruning and green harvesting and allowing the fruit to get a little bit riper more early, they're more approachable at an early age.
Right. I've heard at one point there was some winemaker, old school, that said the wine needs to go into the barrel and be virtually undrinkable at that point. Like, you shouldn't be drinking it then. It needs to stay for that long. Right.
And that's because of the tannin. Very serious tannin in the front part of your gums and acidity, and they both just soften with time and they become very complex. The classic aromatic components of Nebbiolo are rose petal, red cherry fruit, and then as they age in the bottle, like maybe a little bit more tar, kind of smoke and tobacco. So these are very complex wines and wines to ponder over. Certainly food friendly and need some food, some fat, something braised, ribeye, something that's got a little bit of richness to it as well.
I think, like, in general terms, like tasting these side by side, the Barolo certainly is a bit more overt and in your face, and it's definitely more brawny. Like, I try not to say masculine and feminine because I think we're all a little bit of both, but this is, I would drink it after the Barbaresco, and at Barbaresco I could introduce earlier to the menu. And like you say, like ribeye, I think would be fantastic with this. Anything, there was a famous restaurant I used to work at that would do this porcini rub Delmonico steak. So a ribeye steak with porcini rub on the outside, and it was delicious, and this would be glorious with that.
Absolutely.
And the Barbaresco, I'm just a huge fan of.
and of course one of the big agricultural products from there that is produced and world renowned is the white truffle, and pairs very well with Nebbiolo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. White truffles and hazelnuts.
Hazelnuts,
and
exactly.
Risotto rice.
And risotto, and a fair amount of peaches and apricots and things of that nature.
Torino, when I stayed there, our welcome gift basket for a wedding included Tic Tacs, because that was the Tic Tac foam.
Made by Ferrero, exactly.
But grows together, but I don't actually recommend Tic Tacs with red wine. That would probably be horrible.
No.
So real quick, just to kind of like wrap up and generalization, these wines all available at Argonaut with the exception of the Favorita for now. Tell us you want it, we'll bring it in. And then other wines that make, we have the Bianco, the Rosso, and the Rosé. So kind of heading into the summertime, picnics, barbecue, lower price point, a little bit more accessible. These are more like everyday fun wines.
Everyday wines that pair with life, with everything. You know, this is probably our most international and approachable because it has a little bit of Cabernet in it, so slightly darker fruit. But Rosé, very classic in its form now that, you know, quite lifted. Same with Bianco.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this was such a treat.
The treat is mine.
I have a million more questions.
Please,
I wish we had more time for it, but maybe we'll do a Attimo version 2.0.
Yeah.
We'll get through the summertime, open things up. I encourage everybody, if you get a chance to come visit the winery, the tasting team. It's a beautiful facility, an opportunity to learn a little bit more about what you like, what you don't like, and have something with that Colorado connection, which I think is very important right now to
very much.
Keep it close, keep it with the family.
And we appreciate your partnership. And again, if you're in the neighborhood, we're in the ballpark neighborhood at 2200 Larimer, essentially. So come grab a glass, and if I'm here, I'd love to say hi.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks again.
Chin
chin. Chin chin. And saying, if you like this and it was kind of fun and you enjoyed it, follow the YouTube channel and everything else. Subscribe. We'll have lots of other videos coming up. We'll keep them short and sweet, fun, and not too serious because that's off-putting. And wine should be fun. So cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you.